Hello friends, this video on motion and time part 3 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Now, when we talk about motion, we already looked at a couple of examples of motion where we saw that some objects move on a straight path, some objects move in circular path, some objects rotates about itself, but all of these are motion because there is a change in position with time. Now, an interesting thing about motion is that motion is relative. What do we mean by relative? That means motion of an object is always with respect to some frame of reference. Now, what is this frame of reference? Now, whenever we talk about motion, it is always with respect to something else. For example, let us look at this example. Let's say that these people, they are standing at the bus stop waiting for a bus. Now, there is a bus which just moves by. Okay. So what will you say? Is the bus moving? Yes, the bus is moving because the position of the bus is changing with time. So initially the bus was here and now the bus is here. So the bus is moving, of course. But the bus is moving with respect to these people who are standing at the bus stop because they can see it changing its position with time. Now, if you look at the same bus, now let's assume that you are not standing at the bus stop, rather you are sitting inside the bus. So you are inside the bus, let's say. Okay. Now, if you are inside the bus, do you see the bus changing its position with time? Not really. So for somebody who is sitting inside the bus is at rest. But for somebody who is outside the bus is in motion. So we are talking about the same object, but for one frame of reference, it is moving, but with respect to some other frame of reference, it is at motion. So this is what we mean by relative. So any object which is moving, it is moving for certain things and it is not moving for certain other things. And this is what we call as relative nature of motion. So that is why we say that motion is a relative term. So whenever we say that this particular object is in motion, that means it is in motion with respect to something. So now that we learned about motion, there are many different types of motion. I have already given you an example of oscillatory motion, the motion of the simple pendulum. So let's look at another very simple type of motion which is commonly experienced by us in our day-to-day life, and that is called rectilinear motion. So linear means something which is in a straight line. So motion along a straight line is known as rectilinear motion. So one example of rectilinear motion could be a car moving along a straight line, along a straight path. So this is an example of rectilinear motion. Now, you see, different types of motion are so much different from each other. So, rectilinear motion is like this, whereas when you talk about the oscillatory motion, which is nothing but a periodic to and fro motion, that is like this. Correct? So, that is oscillatory motion. Now, the question is, how do we describe the motion of an object? How do we describe that how exactly a particular object is moving? Because there are many different ways in which an object can move. Now, as I have mentioned before, that whenever we talk about motion, two important things are position and time. So these are the two most important things, and that is why you see both these parameters are included in the definition of motion. So in order to describe the motion, position needs to be defined. That is very, very important, because only when you know the position of an object, you will be able to judge if the position has changed with time or not. So position needs to be very clearly defined. And what is position? It is nothing but the point at which the object is located at a particular instant of time. So let's look at this example. You see this little boy on the cycle? So right now the boy is at rest. So let's say the boy is located at this particular, so location is this one, and at a particular instant of time. Now when he starts moving, so he starts cycling, what happens? As he keeps moving from this position A, its position keeps changing. So at certain time it was here, then here, then here, and finally it has reached this position. Let's call this position B. And the time has also passed by during this period. So that means the time also changed and the position or the location of the object also changed. So this location is termed as position. So now in this case, we could clearly say that motion had taken place because there is a change in position. And how do we know there is a change in position? Because we had defined the initial position, and therefore we can determine if the final position is same as the initial position or final position is different than the initial position. So knowing the position is very, very important. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.